before somebody gets to hoard all the food because they got all the money and they can buy it all. You understand what I'm saying? So that's where you say, yeah, rationing would be a lot more fair under those circumstances. And if we got anybody's going to be living out in the cold, if it's true there's a housing shortage, we got people living and dying out in the cold because they're passive and they're not criminals, they're not willing to commit a crime to get free three hots and a cot to survive, like so many are willing to do that, commit a crime to get those perks of surviving behind bars. But we're going to let them die because they're too passive. They're too stupid to commit a crime and survive, or to make a lot of money and get to survive. You see, I mean, this is a freaking nightmare, man. So we've got to get off the junk. We're mainlining the junk. The junk is money, satanic power, and it influences all of our hearts and minds, mine included. And God is what we need, man. We need to turn to God for help. It's the only way we're going to extricate ourselves from the maws of this beast system, man. We're in dire straits. We're in a lot of trouble, my friends. And I mean, it's going to hit the fan, not in my time or your time, but in God's time. And nobody knows when that is. It's going to hit suddenly and traumatically like a thief in the night, like Jesus pointed out. Does anyone else ask why so often those whom least deserve to live in financial fear and insecurity experience the most? And the kicker is that often these folks can be counted as some of the most productive members of society. That's right. Yeah, I mean, out there building houses and they can't afford to buy their own house. I mean, that's sick. Yeah, nobody gets housing. Let's get to cut to the chase. Let's get to the bottom of things. Let's get crazy. Everybody's homeless, okay? If anybody has to be homeless. If it's true that there's not enough housing for everybody, then you be willing to live out in the cold, live and die out in the cold with those passive people out there that aren't willing to be criminals and aren't willing to be cutthroat. You don't get housing either. If you think it's okay, if you want to rationalize and justify it and say you're going to stand before your Creator God someday and give account for your belief system, your credos, your philosophies, or lack thereof, good luck. But I'm strongly recommending that you don't prescribe to that madness, that devilishness, that diabolism. But yeah, I mean, we got to get things fixed, man. We got to start trying to really hard to please God, and quick. Time is short. It's running out, my friends. Nobody gets housing unless everybody gets housing. How's that for you? Things you want for yourself, you damn well better wish for others. If you don't, you're evil. You're an elitist. You're anti-egalitarian. You believe in inequality. You're ungodly. You're immoral. You're unethical. You're on the highway to hell, and I'm your best friend. I'm trying to save you any way I can. If I need to impress you by acting, I'll do whatever I can. Bluffing, whatever I can, I'll do it. Okay, but I'm being as genuine as I can and real. And I'm trying to get it through to people that this is serious stuff and take it very seriously. Okay, it's about eternal salvation, where you go from here, my friends. We've all heard of people being classified as deep or shallow. But aren't we all a combination thereof? Don't we have a right and responsibility to be as deep as possible? Right. Soulful, my friends. Is it really so far out, such an acute stretch of reality to suggest that folks don't require being metaphorically flogged, financially speaking, in order to work, to serve in some capacity within the bounds of a sensible, logical, civilized society? No, of course not. Then we must ask why. Furthermore, do regular folks deserve aforementioned metaphorical flogging via financial tyranny to become progressively harsher and harsher and more onerous? Again, of course not. Mean men rule over the righteous men for now. One day, when humanity is divinely set free, this wretched paradigm, this wicked and wretched paradigm, will shift. That's right. You can't stop a man in his right mind from serving his fellow man. That's just the way it is. Do yourself and everyone else a favor. Take time to simply think loving thoughts. As a person, a human being, you are exactly who you choose to be. And you can decide that on any given day. You can decide, you know what, I used to believe this, now I believe that. It's your prerogative. Quite simply, if I had things my way, it would be God's way. And one may ask, well, how is that way? What is that way? And to that I say, that way is anything but a mystery. Quite simply, that way is the perfect way. Right. That's it. Perfect in every way you can imagine. If indeed you really can handle the truth, you can handle this statement. God has given humanity the wherewithal to live together in peace, harmony, safety, security, joy, freedom, and prosperity. And that is an inarguable fact, a fact that no sane person would attempt to refute. If you've ever felt like your true self, your godly self, who you really are deep down in the very marrow of your soul, stood in stark contrast to the imposter self, the pseudo self, the rebellious self, the egoistic, vain, superficial, conceited, worldly self protests and complicates your attempt to be joyous, free, content, satisfied, and happy. If so, you are not at all alone. And you're not abnormal. It is an unfortunate, unanimous fact that our spirits really do determinedly seek to soar with the eagles, while our flesh determinedly seeks to land us in the gutter. We may aptly refer to this phenomenon as our higher or lower selves. There are valid and invalid reasons why normal in the righteous, decent, godly sense are invariably harder, why the normal people in their true righteous, decent, godly self are invariably harder on themselves than others. This is clear, unambiguous evidence that there really are good, godly people and bad, evil forces interacting on earth, all through human civilization. Money in all its sundry incarnations is the ambrosia for the evil forces. The love of money is the main driver for all the trickle-down evil. We cannot know or attain a viable reality, one in which we are all truly free as a species, until every form of money is eradicated from our paradigm. Statistically speaking, generalizations are generally fair if understood in the relative general context. Intuitively, we know such things to be true, but we seldom consciously consider the implications. There are endless examples of this point. One example is that women, I say, are cleaner than men. That statement is clearly a generalization. Very clean men could rightfully object, though they also must admit they are the exception and not the general rule. Like myself, you may feel lucky and fortunate that you have a good life and every reason in the world to enjoy your life and be a happy, well-adjusted member of society. The problem is that you have a failsafe built into your essence, your very being, we refer to as conscience, an attribute normal, healthy, decent, godly folks tend to value highly. And when we know, as we do, that we all have brothers and sisters, perhaps better men and women than ourselves, unnecessarily dying heartlessly out in the cold, our consciences are inevitably stricken, thereby making it impossible for us to really enjoy our good fortune. Maintaining a light-filled, pure, clean heart is a formidable challenge in a world rife with filthy, dirty hearts filled with darkness. Do we ask why we need a government at all? If you don't, you should. Furthermore, we must ask what elements comprise a viable government. What use do we the people have for a government? How does said government benefit myself and everyone else in society? If a government doesn't benefit the people but rather harms them, shouldn't such a governance be rightfully and justifiably disbanded? As light overpowers darkness, so truth overpowers untruth. Better to be scared to have the fear of God in your soul now than to be petrified and scared to death later. Financial evildoers have two formidable forces going for them. One, they have momentum, and two, they have inertia. The best of both worlds, both the resistance to stop being evil from momentum and the resistance to change their evil ways. Understanding the term, the fear of God, comes down to understanding the origins and purposes of having a conscience. Best to everybody. Have a great weekend. I love everyone and wish the best for everybody. There's no shortage of best. All the things I want for myself, I want for you. Only good.